Gravity specifically came about in a little bit different way than my other books, because I came up with the kind of like framework of the story. In other words, a book falling out of a book. That first sequence in Gravity, right. That was the first thing I came up with, and then I attached the subject of gravity to that, because I was like, oh, a book falling out of a book falling. This could be an interesting thing to do, a way to introduce gravity. Right. Now, to back up just a little bit, a few weeks before I came up with that book falling out of a book idea, my wife said to me, Jason, why don't you do a book about gravity in which the words fall off the page? So, of course, I completely ignored her. And then later I made my book dominoes and I said, hey, Deirdre, check this out. I think this might make a good book. And, she very quickly set the record straight as to whose idea it really was. So anyways, that's how Gravity came about. And then, of course, I went and did my research and worked out how to teach gravity or to introduce the subject within this framework of the book, going in and out of the book. And that's where the idea of, gravity disappearing might be an interesting way to present, what it actually does for us, having everything float away.
Yeah, could we specifically, let's talk about a couple things about Gravity. The cover and just the composition of the cover and the decisions made. This cover is really striking, and what gets me is I had the book just laying on my kitchen table, and I was walking around doing other things, and you look up and when you see the cover upside down for the first time, you're like, that looks like it's right side up.
Yeah.
And then you flip it over. It's so disorientating that it works really well with the subject matter and what it is. So how did you come up? Could you just talk about how you came up with that idea and executing it? Like even having that little toy man astronaut person and where you placed him was just so perfect to keep the disorientating nature going.
Right. So that was definitely the goal. So I'm glad that it worked that way for you. I had basically the way I did it was I drew all of my objects. They're all the toys that go through the book, and then I actually scanned them in and scaled them up and down and moved them around the page. I had a drawing of the Earth, and then I just moved these scans of my drawings of the objects around until I found a pleasing composition. I think I had an idea to put them upside down from the beginning. It just felt right to me that he would be upside down. That way there's kind of no, it makes it very clear visually that it's floating. One of the questions going when developing the cover was how much to reveal from the book, because it's a surprise that everything floats away, right? So one of the questions was, do we want to show everything floating away, like all the stuff from the whole planet, or at one point I had like tons of objects floating through space there, but I can't remember why, but I think my editor decided, said not to do that, and so we went with the one that we've got, just the 5 objects. I think it's 5.
Yeah.
4 or 5 objects.
And to have like a spaceship and a spaceman, because if not opening the book, you think, that could be, you don't know it's a toy yet.
Yeah, so that was, I think, that's going back to, is it, the surprise and revealing the surprise of the book. The fact that they are toys and you don't realize that when you look at the cover, you think that, oh, this is maybe it is the character of the book, but you think it could be like a stylized actual human character, right?
Right.
So it leaves enough unknown on the cover that the surprise still works on the inside of the book.
The other thing that I really like, and I'm just going to flip open the book right here, the last page. So you have your spread with all the information, and then you flip it, and you get that last little story at the end that really like it's got enough gap there where you're thinking, well, what's going on here? And you have to really study the image to find out, oh, this is the lemonade stand. I remember the lemonade stand, and then to realize what happened in that gap there. That right there, that ended the story so beautifully.
Oh, thanks. So the lemonade stand. Well, first of all, I put a lot of work into figuring out what the best ending would be. I tried a whole bunch of different ideas. The rest of the book came together relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like, from the beginning, I was on this course. I kind of knew where the book would go. And then but the ending, it took me a while to figure out what a good ending would be. So, at one point, the objects all land back on the beach with the boy. Mm-hmm. At other points, they landed all over the world. So I think I had like 10 or 15 different endings or something, landing in China or Japan or in, Egypt on the Sphinx, or and I'm landing in Vermont in a cow paddy, landing in a cow field, because I thought it'd be funny if my book landed in a cow paddy. But the trick of it was to figure out how to make them land somewhere else, but still resolve the story of the boy that was introduced in the beginning of the book, because I didn't want any readers to think that he floated off into space and got lost. Right. So having objects switch places was the solution I came up with. And then it was a matter of finding the right object and the right scenario that everyone would get. Because it's like you said, there's a big gap in space. There's a whole spread in between. Mm-hmm. You haven't seen the boy from the beginning for almost 20 pages or something like that. So there's that discontinuity there, and so it was a matter of finding the right object to fall into his hands and the right scene to have the objects fall into prior to that. What I came up with was the lemonade stand, and I came up with it when my nieces, I have 4 nieces, they came to visit, and they had a lemonade stand out in the yard, and I took their photo, and then that became the ending of the book.
Nice.
So that's them, and they're who the book is dedicated to.